Good morning. Welcome to this sacred time, this community consecrated by our presence. I'm Michael Griffith, and I'm on the worship committee. I'm new to the church, but my wife Donna and I have been Unitarians for over 50 years. So with great pleasure, I welcome you this morning to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Transylvania County. Know that you're welcome here, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you vote, whatever your race, age, class, gender orientation, or identity, whatever your physical or intellectual ability, you're welcome here. Whether you are here in the church building or using the magic of technology to attend the service with us, welcome to this sanctuary. Whatever spiritual paths you've traveled, whatever beliefs you've known, if any, you're welcome here. For our faith calls us not to a particular creed, but to a covenant to honor every person's worth and dignity. The church's mission is to support individual spiritual journeys and to promote social, economic, and environmental justice. If you're here for the first time, welcome. And thank you for taking a chance and taking the time to find out about us and worship with us. Let me make a few announcements. First of all, our church brings us together safely, and that's important. So please wear a mask when you're in the building, except I get accepted, and so does Reverend Bob when you're at the podium. Use the clipboards to sign your name and telephone number in case we have to do contact tracing. And instead of passing baskets at our offering, use the baskets at each side of the sanctuary or bowl by the doors on your way out. You can drop your name tags there too. Our charitable contributions this month go to the Sharing House, and you can read about the Sharing House on the door. After the service, please exit the building as soon as possible so the air can exchange fully before the next service. And I'd like to ask the ushers to come forward and can give out pieces of paper if you'd like to have a joy or concern to share. The usher will bring these forward, and then you can hand them to the ushers later. Reverend Bob has convened 2 meetings of the UUTC Grief Group. The next meeting is November 15th. If you've suffered the loss of a loved one now or in the past and want a supportive circle, please contact Reverend Bob for more details. Reverend Bob will be starting a class on the topic of poetry and meditation in November. He'll be offering this in person only. You can find more details in the newsletter or talk to Reverend Bob after the service. Later in the day, we'll have the announcement on who won the e-bike. So hold on to your seats. We have an announcement from Bobby King about Power Up, which UUTC does in conjunction with St. Philip's and the Jewish community. So now we'll see the video.
Hello. As we all know, the pandemic has taken a huge toll on the ability of many folks to meet even their most basic needs. And with the high cost of heating and winter right around the corner, things are going to be even tougher for a lot of the residents of Transylvania County. UUTC is again partnering with St. Philip's Episcopal Church and our local Jewish community to hold the annual Power Up fundraiser for Sharing House so that they might assist these people in need of paying their heating bills. There is no charge for the event. However, we hope that you'll give generously. It will be a chicken casserole meal held at St. Philip's. It will be drive-through so that we're COVID safe, and you can make reservations at UTC or online. The information on how to do this can be obtained from our newsletter or there's information on the bulletin board at UUTC. Again, there's no charge for the meal, but we hope that you'll give generously. If you'd like to call me for more information, my name is Bobby King. I can be reached at 678-592-4068. We look forward to seeing you on November the 14th and to receiving your generous donation. Thank you.
And now for our musical call to worship, we'll do hymn number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. We invite you to rise as you are willing and able, and to hum and dance along with this hymn. Reverend Bob will come forward and do the singing for us.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
The opening words are from our hymnal and reading number 474 by Keshab Chandra Sen. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony and in sculptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides, and and also magnifies humanity in peace, which seeks truth and freedom, justice and love, and individual discipline and social duty, and which shall make of all persons, sects, classes, nations, and races one beloved community unto this church and all its members. Known and unknown throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. Now we move more deeply into the worship service with the lighting of our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. And these are the words of Reverend Naomi King, a UU minister and yoga teacher who served our congregations in Utica, New York, and Plantation, Florida, and now lives in Maine. The title is, How Shall We Begin to Live Our Free Faith? And in doing so, I'd like to have your participation. I'd like you to join me in a responsive reading, Nurture This Precious Light. Nurture this precious light. When we do, we are beacons of freedom, creating a safe place to rest, explore, and innovate. Nurture this precious light. How we keep this lamp of truth and justice affects how and whether we are transforming inequity through witness and action. Nurture this precious light. As we nurture the precious light together, we become a light of hope, turning isolation into community, anguish into peace, sorrow into joy. Nurture this precious light. As we do, our faith burns a steady flame of innovation, banishing illusion, creating a new and renewing way together. Nurture this precious life with our living connections, with our glowing stories, with our flame of freedom moving hand to hand. We nurture this precious light. wisdom for all ages.
Thank you, Mike. Well, I know this is Halloween. I know because I worked the booth yesterday and I saw everybody dressed up in costumes, and I wore one too. I dressed up as an old man. All right. Well, at Halloween time, I think of a story in which I was just old enough to be allowed by my parents to be out at Halloween all by myself, a little too old to really go door to door, and so I decided if I'm old enough to be alone, I'm going to do something scary alone. Very scary alone. I decided I was going to spend trick-or-treating time all by myself in the cemetery. So I walked over to the cemetery in the dark, found my way, went all the way to the back, and sat up with my back against the wall at the very edge. I could see all the gravestones from behind. It was very quiet. Occasionally, I would hear the night noises, the rustling, this or that going on around me, and the hairs on the back of my neck each time standing up. At some point in the night, that feeling got so bad, I decided I was going to leave the cemetery right then and there. And I got up and I ran from the back of the cemetery all the way out to the street, but I didn't make it. I was tripped. I got myself up. I scrambled out of there, and I ran all the way home. Now, I tell you this story and what happened afterwards, because there was nobody with me. There was nobody else who could verify how scary and what was going on in that cemetery that made me so scared. We are not meant to be alone. And we are better off facing scary things together. I don't know that I ever did something alone on Halloween night ever again. This is why we have friends. I went back the next morning to see, there must have been a branch or a root or something that tripped me. But no, it was all very smooth, as cemeteries often are kept. There was nothing there that could have tripped me on Halloween night. I tripped over something, though. I am a logical, rational, Unitarian Universalist. I do not believe some skeleton reached up from the ground to trip me. I don't think some ghost dove in front of me and made me trip. No, I do not. But I couldn't find anything that would have. This, too, is a reason why we don't go it alone in religion. If we're trying to figure out life, the universe, and everything, and what trips us up in life, we need a congregation. We need the people around us. So on this Halloween, remember, we are not meant to be alone. We need each other. And let's remember our congregation. Those are the words of wisdom on this Halloween Sunday. And I invite Jackson to come forward with the light. Come on forward. And then as Jackson leads out our group, here, come on over here, Jackson, and get it right there. There you go. We will, as you're willing and able, rise and wave to our children, those 5 through 12 who wish to participate.
I wouldn't go in a cemetery under any circumstances, much less Halloween night.
I think you're on the next page.
There we go. One of these days I'm going to learn how to do this. Get myself together here.
We're on this part.
Yeah, there we go. Now we go to the cycle of life. We believe that joys are magnified and sorrows are eased by sharing them in this loving community. We now pause to honor milestones and to lift up those who come in world and lift up those who need our healing thoughts. If there is something in your heart to share at this time, please write it down, and I see you've done that, and give it to the ushers. Meanwhile, if you're watching online, please share our joys and concerns in the chat box, and I'll light a candle for them. Okay. Would you do the honors? Thank you.
Thank you.
We light a candle for those workers in the front lines during this pandemic: sanitation workers, delivery workers, healthcare workers, janitors and teachers, taxi drivers and food servers, those people who've often risked their lives to keep us safe and to lead us out of this perilous time. We light a candle for guidance to world leaders who are meeting now to make important decisions that will affect the life of people everywhere. We light a candle for those milestones shared in the online chat. And this is a final candle for all those joys, sorrows, milestones that remain unspoken at this time. Let us pause for a moment of meditation as we think about the cycle of life.
I invite you into this moment of prayer and meditation. Spirit of love and life, we who are gathered here and online, reach out with our hearts to those who are worried, those who are working through their treatments with their medical professionals, those who are the caregivers. We reach out our hearts and our thoughts to those who are celebrating joys. The joy of a beautiful fall and wonderful weather. And in particular, the joy from Vanessa and Ian Cowie, who are glad to have their daughter, Natasha, visiting from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Our joys go out to those who have recovered from their breakthrough COVID cases, for those who may have found the way through whichever challenges have been facing them, and the joy of knowing we are not alone on a scary day. In the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind, we say, Amen. Blessed be. This is one of those times of year in which people come around to the door, and they knock, and they say trick or treat. And if you don't give them something, they'll toilet paper your lawn, throw eggs at you or your car or wherever. This is that time of year in which we all want to be especially generous with candy so that none of that awful stuff happens. That's not really what collection time is at church. I'm not going to come over to your house and throw eggs at you if you don't put something in the offering baskets. I'm not going to toilet paper your lawn and trees. Our pledge drive folks don't seem to want to do that either. Instead, what we teach in church is very un-Halloween-like. We hope that when you knock on our door, it is open and you can come in. We hope that the generosity of who we are as people who will welcome many varied folks in their walks of life, we are the people of generosity in listening to the varied stories and getting to know one another and bumping elbows safely. To make this happen, of course, we do need you to pull out of your pockets not candies, but something of cash or check, or charging it online, or, as I do, automatic withdrawal. Some way of helping this place continue to be that place of openness and generosity. So, would you give? And give generously. Thank you. Everything that you give in love, we receive with great joy, and we say thank you. Now, before we get on into the reading and the sermon and everything that you've come here for, I am going to announce who our e-bike winner is. Our e-bike winner is, ta-da, Harry Parrish. Harry bought 2 tickets yesterday at the UUTC booth at the Halloween Festival. And congratulations, Harry, you now can have the beautiful purple e-bike. For all of you who were disappointed, know that your tickets that you bought more than generously paid for the $1,500 bike itself, but also added to our coffers to help us with our electric bill and whatever else we're needing to do. Thank you to all who imagined this wonderful way of promoting two-wheel transportation. If you watched the September evening event on two-wheel transportation, and thank you to all who participated. All of this makes possible what we do here. What is it? This congregation is made possible by the generosity of donors like you. Our reading is about limiting versus liberating covenants. And I thank Michael for having reached out, dug through online resources. This is from the New England region of the Unitarian Universalist Association, something I've truncated but posted. Liberating covenant. Liberating covenant is a covenant that moves towards beloved community. Beloved community means many things, but one of them is community everyone can bring to their whole selves. Faithfulness in this kind of covenant means bringing our full presence, including our authenticity and our vulnerability. Rather than seeking comfort, this kind of covenant calls us to the creation of braver space together. Braver space together. That is a space where we are all supported to take risks and repeatedly move out of our comfort zone in the service of our own spiritual growth and true liberation for all. M. Scott Peck, the author, writes about the difference between pseudo-community and genuine community. A pseudo-community to Peck is one in which everyone is trying to be polite and get along, but at the expense of really bringing their whole selves. A genuine community, by contrast, is one in which people are fully themselves and able to be open and vulnerable. Peck says that what defines genuine communities as people are those who have learned to fight gracefully. Liberating covenants do not try to get rid of conflict, nor do they see conflict itself as evidence of that the covenant is broken or ineffective. Rather, they are designed to hold space for engaging conflict creatively and lovingly. That means conflict where we can bring our whole selves, including with our own cultural style about conflict. It means respecting others' whole selves, including diverse cultural styles. Doing so, we can work through the conflict and into creative solution to our problems and disagreements. So here I preach on the spiritual challenge of covenant, and to point out that we thrive in covenantal community. We survive because we are not alone, and we thrive when we cultivate the relationship. Congregations and leaders cite on the UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association website says that covenant is the silk that joins Unitarian Universalist congregations, communities, and individuals together in a web of interconnection. The practice of promising to walk together is the precious core of our creedless faith. Now, that's a whole lot of words for saying, we're not telling you all have to believe the same. Covenant means that we agree to walk with one another in certain ways. We are here to practice a way, not enforce specifics. So to me, covenant is one of those things in which we have made agreements with one another, and there are times in which we have to refresh those agreements. We have to say why we're grounded in the way we're grounded. We have to do the hard work of agreeing to disagree. I really like a quote here from Reverend Erica Bacon, again from the New England regional staff. It doesn't mean that the New England folks are always smarter than everybody else. Although growing up, I thought we were. I've learned since moving to the Midwest, to the Southwest, to the South, even to New York. Understanding covenants, she says. Understanding covenants is a practice. It means the words on the page after we're done writing aren't the covenant. They are words that point towards covenant. The covenant lives in the action of hearing what others need from us and making those promises, of trying to keep our promises to others, and of continually learning better and doing better as we gain new skills. So, we are a community of covenanting. We covenant together for our spiritual growth. We come together from many different paths. When we sang the opening hymn, "Come, come, whoever you are," we mean that. We're not just asking you to come into the space already preformed to be broken and refit into a creed. I understand that some churches, when they say they're a welcoming church, means we welcome all of you, and we'll fix you, and we'll change you. That's not. We're an accepting congregation. We're a celebrating congregation. We want you to bring your whole self. And if that means we're having trouble with one another, we try to figure out, can we be in covenant? Come, come, whoever you are. The other part is come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, that makes sense. Come, worshipers. Lover of leaving. Wait a minute. The minister has a challenged perception of that. How can we say, come, whoever you are, lovers of leaving? Well, it's because we have folks here who one time or another, even if it was 50 years ago, left something to find here. Left behind a childhood understanding of religion to be challenged and be here. Left communities which may have been stifling and came here, where we hopefully can bring our whole selves. The part that the UUA hymn book doesn't put in is the line, I'll put this on while I say it. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair, come yet again, come. And we do break our vows, maybe 1,000 times. We get it wrong in the agreements we have with those we love. Covenant is when we realize we are out of covenant with one another and we try once again. Singing a song about it sometimes helps. Far better than, well, war. How do we come back into interplay? It's kind of interesting, a story which I may have told you earlier that I read this summer in the news, was the border between two countries in Europe, in which a farmer decided that the boundary marker between countries was in the way of being able to turn his tractor around as he was plowing his field, so he moved it. And the two countries found out that the official boundary had been moved. Now that could be fighting stuff. You ever find a neighbor who decides they're going to push down your fence because they don't like it there? But they laughed about it and decided that they could tell the farmer, put it back. It's what we've agreed on. That's where the edge is. Work around that. That's what helps us keep along. Good boundaries help us be vulnerable with one another, real with one another. I am not you, you are not me, but we are right up against each other. I don't know if the farmer ever did, but though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, though we've found our boundaries crossed in minor ways, we come back together. It's not quite a contract with one another, but rather a commitment to stay put with some agreements, to keep being in relationship, to do what we can then when we have been out of covenant to repair. This covenant holds us together religiously. There's another illustration that I love using from my training as a religious educator in our movement, a minister of religious education. I would say that religious education is two things: religio, which means to bind together, and educare, which means to draw out. Now, for some people, the idea of binding feels like this. Bound up. Limited. Somehow we're handcuffed. And that's not it at all. That's not the meaning of the word. Instead, I like to explain it this way to children, and sometimes adults get this too. It means having a pencil, and you're all by yourself, and under stress, you snap. Religio, to bind together, is to find all of the beliefs or all of the congregation so that you are now a bundle and you cannot be easily snapped when stress comes upon you. Think of that. Pencils. The binding together of the pencils makes a stronger unit. Our faith, our ability to be strong within ourselves, we create a core that helps us stand in the midst of storm and trouble. And then we work to build the congregation, each of us, bound together with promises to work with one another, to remain together through thick and thin, for the reason of helping us become more strong spiritually. We then, as a bundle, are too hard to break. Now, I'm going to go off into a biblical story. Not sure if I've got this exactly right. That's the good thing about the freedom of the pulpit and the freedom of the pews. You're welcome to pull out your translations. I always carry a Bible with me. Looks like an iPhone, but it's in there. The biblical story of Cain and Abel. It's one of sibling rivalry or jealousy, but it's also something of a challenge to God. It is a challenge as well to the understandings of the early stories of the Jewish and Christian understanding of ourselves, and also the Muslim religion, which is built on the Abrahamic tradition as well. If we are here to help one another, if we were to be asked by God again, as Cain was, where is your sibling? I think we would hope to come up with a better answer than Cain's, am I my sibling's keeper? Cain's answer was actually extremely challenging to God. It sounds like a whiny, new created being. Why? You think that's my job? But think of it instead in that point in the biblical story as, why? You think it's my job? It's a challenging question to God. It has the implication that God was supposed to be responsible for all creation. What? Yeah. Didn't we hear that? God pays attention to even the little sparrow. The implication is that God was supposed to be responsible for all creation. And in fact, the stories of the Bible show that God does watch over and protect and says to the various tribes, as God, I will support you and your descendants, and I will take away my blessing and make a rough time for your enemies. It suggests that indeed Abel's sibling's keeper is God. But that story led us to a different understanding, because when Cain was told he was to be punished, to be put on a path to wander the earth alone, if you turn the page, the punishment didn't seem to last forever. Now, this is where I have my universalism, my belief that none of us is condemned for an eternity. My understanding of being a universalist is that no mortal being is condemned to suffer in hell for an eternity. And we do not have to worry about that, because we read the scriptural message of love again and again to talk to us about loving one another. And I do not imagine that anything holy would then keep us in suffering. And indeed, when I see that story of Cain being sent off to wander the world alone, and then I turn the page, I see that it talks about a whole civilization of Canaanites. Now, that's been interpreted biblically many different ways, but to me it's yet another message that we are not meant to survive alone. Even the outcasts, wanderers, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Whatever happened between page 1 and page 2 is the building of community, the whole support system, the thriving networks of human beings. We are together. The reading we had in our responsive reading was about respecting and carrying this light. The Halloween story was about not facing the scary all alone. No, we may have the capacity to do that to some extent. At some point we get up and run or freeze. We are, somewhat limited beings in everything we can handle. We're inadequate when faced with troubles and trauma that are far beyond what we've been trained to face, prepared to face. We have watched people in this county who have been wiped out by the horrid rains. We have watched floods. We have watched across the world for earthquakes and volcanoes and any number of human-caused problems. As much as we think of our individual selves as strong, self-sufficient, we are fragile. We are fragile in the midst of disaster, fragile in the midst of change, and we were never meant to survive. We were meant to thrive in community. That is part of understanding ourselves. We're mammals as well. We have to take care of one another. If we don't, we are in danger. I would like us to be challenged to find ways this year in which we ensure that no one is isolated and off alone. I, as minister, am somewhat your shepherd, one who watches and counts to be aware of any sheep that have wandered away. It's interesting in that story that the shepherd would go off and abandon the people to go find one lost one. Remember that when I'm not here for my office hours. I am still a shepherd who does not know the flock yet completely, but you know each other. Some of you know that means paying attention to who is here in the group and holding on to one another together and calling together and asking each other, is anyone left out? Is anyone missing? And we read it into the member-to-member connections. And I had somebody as a member ask me yesterday, well, Bob, how's that person doing? And my response was, why don't you give them a call? Because if you think that you're going to relate to me and that's going to help your friend know that they're connected, you're wrong. Our covenant with one another is to be directly engaged. We talked about ways in which we follow our impulses to be private individuals, and yet, we do care. Stretch. The New Englander in me says, well, just say what you want to say. If the Southerner in you says, let's work on our covenant to encourage one another. We are to pay heed to our Unitarian Universalist principle of the interdependent web of all existence, for we cannot feel proud of how we're just surviving, because if we are not all able to thrive in our covenant as congregations with one another and as people in these congregations with one another, covenant to affirm and promote the idea of this interdependent web of all existence, this idea that we're here to encourage one another to spiritual growth in our search for truth and meaning, and our understanding that we need to reach out to our neighbors in the whole world. For me, this is the spiritual challenge of covenant. Because as individuals, we'd like sometimes to be on our own, to march to our different drummer, or to be in a group without certain others, only those who give us 15 likes on Facebook, at least. We'd rather have people cast out from us when they are challenged or unfriendly, or, again, on social media, we just unfriend them. That's not how you get everyone playing at the playground. It's not how you get your game of tag together or do your own stretching and growing as human beings. But I say instead, I would rather that we bring the challenged or challenging into our midst and set up boundaries of behavior that still make it safe for us to be thriving in beloved community. I remember a children's religious education class that responded to their teacher's request at the start of the school year at the church, the religious exploration classroom rules. And the children were asked to add to the rules. And they said, don't kill. Okay. Not exactly what the teacher was expecting coming into a Sunday group of children, that we're not supposed to kill each other. we just kind of assumed that everybody was going to be here not killing each other in their classroom. So, okay, the teacher said, don't kill. What else? Now that was huge because the student who brought it up had wanted everybody to laugh about it and the teacher to say something. But that was a test, folks. If you ask someone to brainstorm in this congregation and they come up with a rule you think was like, that's too obvious, you don't respond that way. You say, okay, don't kill. Now what else? Then the children knew that their input would be heard and taken seriously. That's part of our covenant as a religious group. Don't kill each other's spirit. Don't kill the brainstorming. Build that covenant so that you thrive and grow spiritually. So again, this is new for me, a challenge being a newcomer here in your midst. This for me is a deep challenge as well to show up in this congregation with people I don't fully know yet, and to know that I'm literally fed by you as you ask me to feed you, needing to know you and challenge you to be the best community that you can be for the end purpose of this congregation and its mission. It's a mission. And you say, our mission is to support individual spiritual journeys and to promote social, economic, and environmental justice. Let's do that. And being this covenantal community as only we can do. UUTC, it says on our website, on the board page about vision, UUTC is a covenantal, thriving, welcoming, richly diverse UU congregation in the heart of Brevard, North Carolina. The church offers programs and services that affirm and serve across ages, races, ethnicities, and religious backgrounds, abilities, sexual orientations, and gender identities. Its members and friends are deeply connected through love for one another and for the larger community. UUTC congregants joyfully share their passions, talents, time, and money in the service of the church and its mission. This is a challenge. It is also a blessing. For we were never meant to survive alone. We are to speak up and thrive together. Now, I ask you to rise as you're willing and able, to sway, hum under your breath as I sing for us our closing hymn in lines of covenant. Number 1021, Lean on Me. I am prepared to sing and sing and sing, John.
Let's go for it.
All right. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. For your pride, if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me, lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. You can remain standing through the final bit here. Close our service, I have words of wisdom from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. What faith asks of us, what our faith imagines for us, is that somehow right at the moment our hearts break, we will find our way to see through that heartbreak. We will stay put, not close off, not run away, not hurt back, but keep in relationship, doing what we can to repair the world and each other. May you carry that blessing, that hope out with you this week as you reach out to one another and your friends. Though we extinguish the helper candle, we are the helpers who go forward. Though we extinguish the light of our chalice, we take nothing of our mission or vision away. May you go out this week with love and support, and may you come back again in love. Blessed be.